And again, really appreciate everyone coming together here today for the Center for Healthy Aging Innovation, our fall assembly. We just really have quick updates for you as usual, and then we really have what I think is an exciting engagement opportunity, particularly with our Community Advisory Board. And we're going to be talking more about that with you here in a little bit. So again, those of you on Zoom, I can't see if you're on Zoom, but I do have Kelly and Maya here with us. They can let me know if any questions come up, but it sounds like the sound is okay. Everyone can hear, we can move forward. Wonderful, thank you. And thanks everyone for your patience online. So again, today I'm just going to highlight some of the activities of the center. I definitely want to introduce our new associate director. For those of you that don't know, our center has expanded. We now have a new core, and we're going to have Dr. Harvath talk a little bit about that. Then we're going to spend 45 minutes of our time really engaging with our wonderful, robust Community Advisory Board. They've done great work under the leadership of Robin Frazier, our Associate Director of Equity and Community Engagement, as well as Elma Johnson, to really identify priorities and discuss opportunities and engagement. Again, a major emphasis and philosophy of our center has been to be an outward-facing center, and we've done that primarily through the mechanism of our Community Advisory Board to date. So again, and we're going to be excited to share more about that with you here today. Then we're going to close the last 15 minutes of reception of many of the people who have received awards that have been sponsored, either by the Center for Healthy Aging and Innovation or in parallel fashion with the Robert L. Kane Long-Term Care Chair in Aging. So again, very excited to have you here with us today. So I'm going to just do this really briefly here and kind of overview some of the key activities that have been going on in our existing cores right now. And we're going to start with, in no particular order, the research core. You'll see in the annual report that I'm going to be distributing widely in January. This is, you know, even though we've been in existence now for just a little bit over 2 years, I feel like this is the first year our center is firing on all cylinders in that we have kind of a lot of our key components in place. And in looking to the research core, that is definitely evident. We've built, again, under the leadership of our Associate Director, Dr. Tatiana Shippey, just incredible infrastructure to support members, students, staff, and even in some instances, community partners in engaging in research activity with CHI support. We've developed at least, I don't know, Tatiana, we have at least 5 to 7 special interest groups now, right? We have a dementia and Alzheimer's disease special interest group. We have a rural aging special interest group, an equity in long-term services and supports special interest group, among others. And we see this as kind of an initial way to bring people together, identify potential points of collaboration, and to develop partnerships and projects together. And moving up our ladder of research core infrastructure, you then see the grant idea hatching workshops, which are held roughly monthly. These are co-led by, I believe, Dr. Fashaw Walters, and is it Marty? It's Tatiana, Dr. Shippey, and Dr. DeLima from social work, where this is where people have specific ideas they want to refine related to a grant proposal. They can use it as a time for informal but intensive feedback. And then that finally moves to the aging work group, where we will coordinate external reviews that really have helped shape and refine key and important research projects. I mean, to date, the aging work group has actually helped to support 9 extramurally funded multi-year projects. I benefited from it, Dr. Shippey has, and many other CHI members have. I think it's a unique aspect of our research core, and it is something that we're very proud of. And in addition to that, you know, I think many of you were able to engage with Dr. Luis Medina. This past fall, he gave a spectacular talk on what was the title? It was on health equity and Alzheimer's disease, but it was a great title. Do you remember, Tatiana? From neurology, neurons to nations. What a great title, From Neurons to Nations. Dr. Medina, a great partner and colleague of ours, gave a wonderful talk, visited in person. And this is how we're going to basically organize our speaker series in the future. In the fall, we will have in-person speaker come in, ideally from another institution in America. And then in the spring, we will then have a virtual speaker series. And we're still in planning stages for what that'll be this spring. And then finally, and you will hear from some of our recent winners, including this past year's, we are still overseeing the Fessler-Lampert Chair in Aging Studies, a 1-year chair that provides support for scholars interested in developing topics related to aging. So again, very robust research set of activities. And again, moving to the education core, you can see, again, we've put into place just a number of incredible activities, in this case under the leadership of Dr. Rajan Moon. Our gerontology minor is now up and running. I believe we have, I think, 5 to 7 formally declared minors, right, Rajan, right now. And now that we're offering the gerontology courses more regularly, we offered the multidisciplinary perspectives on aging course this fall, for example. More and more students are getting interested and are formally declaring for the minor each year. Our goal is to get roughly three new students a year to declare for the minor. I think over time that's just going to grow. So we're very excited about the foundation that's been laid. I think many of you know we are the first age-friendly university in Minnesota. We're not the only one now, but we were the first one, so that makes me happy. And supporting that is an incredible age-friendly council, and then our age-friendly day, Age-Friendly University Day, which was an incredible event was it May, Rajan, that we held? Last June, and we're going to be holding it again this June. And what's the date again, Rajan? June 26th. So hopefully you'll be able to attend. We actually got bigger space, so we're going to be able to accommodate more people. Going to be very exciting. You see here some other high points, the Aging Studies Interdisciplinary Group. We have 58 now active students in that group from across campus. Very, very exciting. They themselves engage in monthly robust programming, workshops. They will be holding a number of events during the Aging Careers Week in the spring. Again, a tremendous group. I know Dana Urbanski is here and other members of ASIG. Also, in collaboration with the wonderful support of the Cordell family, we are now offering the Shelley Joseph Cordell Memorial Scholarship, which again offers up to $20,000 of scholarship funds to professional or doctoral students who are interested in pursuing aging as a career. And we're literally reviewing the applications this weekend, and we'll be making those announcements next week. And then again, we have a great partnership with the Goodman Group, where again, we offer a very nice scholarship and internship opportunity with the Goodman Group to engage in key topics of interest. So again, really wonderful set of activities here. Okay. Someone close that door, please. Thanks. Then finally, and certainly by no means not the least important, I would argue it's probably the core element of our center, is the Equity and Community Engagement Core. You're going to hear from several Community Advisory Board members this year or today on what some of the priorities have been to start engaging with CHI members on a variety of projects. We also are looking for increased recruits or increased membership on the Community Advisory Board. In particular, you see here, and we'll distribute these slides, members in LGBTQ, West African, Somali, Hmong, Lao communities. Again, we are very, very deliberate in having full representation on the CAB, and hopefully you know of people or might know of individuals who would be great fits for this. We're going to begin also building out our strategic advisory board this year. You can see more details about that here. We're looking for faculty, researchers, scholars, and staff working on the intersection of aging and equity. The third piece I think is really critical, because a main goal I think we have had as CHI leadership is to continue to find ways we can fully engage with our community partners. So we're going to be developing a learning collaborative to really create a community of practice to share research, best practices, innovations to advance health equity. We're really hoping to launch that this year, and it's a major emphasis, I think, of our center this year as a goal. And then finally, we are working in close partnership with Dr. Feinron Epps at Emory University to further disseminate what's called ALTER, which is a dementia-friendly faith program for predominantly African-American churches. Again, with the leadership of Robin Fraser. She's worked closely with Ashley Millenbaugh, who's the RLK long-term care chair coordinator. We have actually disseminated ALTER now, I think, in 5 to 6 churches, right? 5 churches, Robin, with more interested in signing up. Very, very exciting partnership. And again, I think it's really core to our activity as part of CHI. So I'm going to turn it over. I guess we're not going to be able to hear from Terry because she can talk and we can hear her. Okay, well, that's wonderful. So hopefully she's with us here. You know, even though I said we're firing on full cylinders, that doesn't mean the center is not expanding and positioning itself to continue to pursue key areas of interest. And one of those, in partnership with the School of Nursing and its own Center for Aging Science and Clinical Innovation, is we've now created a new core. It's the core of clinical science and practice. It's certainly meeting a need of many of our CHI members and others of broadening beyond research education and community engagement and equity to start to develop innovative models and partnerships around clinical science and practice. And so Dr. Terry Harvath has joined us and is now the Associate Director of this new core. She is a professor in the School of Nursing. Dr. Harvath is very well known in the field of caregiving. She was the founding director, I believe you were, Terry, of the Institute on Caregiving at the University of California, Davis, in their Betty Moore School of Nursing. She also is a former president of the Gerontological Society of America. We couldn't be more thrilled to have her at the University of Minnesota community and part of CHI. Terry, if you'd like, maybe we're we're going to give it a shot, you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what some of your plans are with this new core.
Sure. Are you able to hear me?
I think we can. That's great.
Very good. Well, Joe, thank you for the introduction. I'm thrilled to be a part of the University of Minnesota, the School of Nursing, and especially CHI. I just feel like I've landed in a very wonderful place to have so many wonderful colleagues to get to play in the aging space. One of the things that I'm hoping to do starting in January is actually opening a family caregiving clinic out of the Grossman Center. I met with their advisory group a couple of weeks ago, and they have approved that. So now it's just working out the details. And we agreed that we would just start the clinic and then worry about some of the infrastructure and other pieces that will be required to make it sustainable after we're up and running. My experience in opening a family caregiving clinic at UC Davis is it's best to just start and then figure out where your permissions and forgiveness is needed. And so that's what we're going to do. I think there's also interest in the School of Nursing within the nurse-run clinics, the practice that some of our faculty have, to think about opening a caregiving clinic there as well. So I'm very excited. I've had the opportunity to meet individually with some of the other associate directors and talk about how our work can overlap so that the clinical innovations and programs and services that we think about launching can intersect with meeting community needs, making sure that we're reaching those who are most vulnerable with those services. Also creating opportunities for the next generation of health professionals to learn about needs of older adults and their family caregivers, and to create opportunities for synergy with research. So I couldn't be happier to have joined CHI and to work with such a wonderful team that is already doing wonderful things. So thanks, Joe.
No, thank you so much, Terry. I mean, we're in the process of building out the website where you can learn more about the clinical science and practice core. You already can tell and think about the synergy between the existing cores, can't you? Certainly with research, I've long been an advocate and a need for having some type of clinical infrastructure to support, potential research engagement with some of our clinics at the university in the space of caregiving. So that'll be an opportunity, and definitely with education too. I mean, you heard Terry talk about nursing, but those of you that are in other practice disciplines, whether it's social work, could be family social science, vis-a-vis marriage and family therapy program, or other clinical practice disciplines, this is an opportunity, I think, for students to get experience in engaging with caregivers through this incredible clinic that Terry's going to be building. So again, we're just thrilled to have Terry with us, and really builds out the repertoire of our center, certainly.
And I have to apologize because I'm actually in between classes.
Oh, sure.
So I'm not going to be able to stay, but it was good to join you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Really appreciate it. So that's it really for our updates. Again, you're going to read a lot more in our annual report, which will be coming out in January. You're going to get a sense of, again, all of this activity and engagement we've been building as part of CHI. And I'm now going to turn it over to Robin Frazier, our Associate Director of Equity and Community Engagement, and then also Elma Johnson, who's our project coordinator for CHI, to talk about the opportunities for engagement with our Community Advisory Board and the community at large. So please, Robin, Elma.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're so grateful that you're here with us today, whether you're in present here or online. We are just eager to tell you about the work of our Community Advisory Board. Everyone's been eager to hear what is the culmination and what's been going on this first year. So you will learn about that. Okay, and so for our section today, we're going to cover three pieces. One of the things that we want you to learn about are what are the top priorities that the CAB has established. They have three of those. And then we're going to have you hear from members of our Community Advisory Board that are going to tell you about the three projects that they have prioritized and that are underway. And then the third component that is very important today also is we have some questions for you because we know that with your vast experience that you will be able to help provide input for the members of our CAB. So in terms of engagement with the community advisory group, we have 3 areas where we have opportunities for engagement. The first one is with our community advisory board, and that board is really bringing forth the voices and the lived experiences from community. And you'll hear about the journey that they've been on that led to them to this moment today. The second area of engagement that we have is our Strategic Advisory Council, and we're so excited. We're in the midst of recruiting for that. We have all of our community members, and now we are bringing on our researchers, staff, and faculty members that will work with those community thought leaders. And their focus will be on those changes that are necessary to advance health equity. So they'll be focused in on system, programs, and policy changes that remove barriers to healthy aging. And then Joe already spoke on this one, and that is our learning collaborative. Every one of our partners are talking to us about work that they're doing in the DEI space, whether it be taking their programs and services into new cultural communities, or work that they're doing with their staff, their volunteers, or their boards. And so we want to be able to convene people so that we can collectively learn from each other. So we'll bring part of that content to the Learning Collaborative, but a lot of that content is going to come from those of you that are engaged. I definitely want to make sure we have plenty of time for you to hear from our Community Advisory Board members. And so I will introduce my colleague, Elma Johnson, who co-leads this area with me, and Elma will talk to you about the CAB journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. I can advance here, right? All right, so how did our Community Advisory Board get here? Really, it's been work of 1 year, and this is just a trajectory of what we've done. We began with just a community needs assessment to see what needs there are in the diverse aging communities that showed 10 overarching themes. Then we set out as a group together to prioritize them for action. What should the CAB actually be working on? We can't focus on all of them at the same time. So we selected 3. You will see them shortly. And from there, we started to discuss what can we do as a group with CHAI in those 3 areas of priority action, right? And that's what you will be hearing about today. Those 3 projects that have already been started to take shape. Those 3 areas were that the CAB prioritized from our community needs assessments are healthy aging and prevention. I'm not going to read it all for you. These slides will be shared later, but really is about what really aging looks like in the different cultural communities and how do we all age healthy in the way we want to. The next area, the second one, was healthcare access, and this refers more broadly to really navigating healthcare social services systems that we need to age in the community. And finally, the third area was aging in place. We all want to age at home with the people that we love and in our community. And specifically, there's one topic that really came forward as a priority is mental health and isolation as we age. Of course, there's other areas that allow us to age at home in our community, but this is one that really stood out. And highlighted here in red, you see those 3 projects about which you will hear next. So I am going to call at this point Miss Amina Ben Sneha, who is joining us online, I believe, and Sonia, who will speak about those 3 projects. They each will spend about 5 minutes introducing the projects, and then we are going to move to our Q&A time. our project leads have prepared questions together with their teams about what they need help with from us here today. And if we have time, we will take some of your questions from the teams. How does that sound? Hi, Amina.
Hello, it's good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Robin and Elma, and thank you everyone who's here today and those who are listening to us. My name is Amina Kenan, and I am a nurse. I'm an RN by profession, but I really like working with people who are aging, including me, because I'm about 40. So I'm here today to present the work we have been doing the last year. It's been a long year, but we did a lot, and I really thank my team, Robin and John. So to start with our project, when I heard about the project Chai, I'm from Kenya, I'm Somali from Kenya. Chai means tea, so it's a great one. So I said I must have Yeah, there you go. So that's part of it that I really was looking forward to, because chai means tea, and in our community, for you to be invited, you have to have tea. That's kind of delicate. Thank you. So my point today is to discuss about the community education toolkit, which is more of self-advocacy and resources toolkit for aging in your community, aging in place. Everybody wants to age at home, but that comes with a lot of challenges, a lot of complexity. Not everybody has the opportunity to age in place, and not everybody understands how to age well with the loved ones. So this tool is a multi-component tool. First one, we will address about stigma about dementia. Not everybody or every community understands what dementia means. So the important thing is understanding dementia itself. How do we do differently define dementia? Because in my Somali community or in my Kenyan community, I might say dementia in a different way. Well, I have a Western European person thinking dementia in a different way. A good example is my uncle, a 93-year-old, was diagnosed with dementia. And then I asked his son, I called from here and back in Nairobi, and he said, yeah, the doctor said because of his age, his memory card, SIM card is full. And I was like, oh, okay, so what does that mean? He's like, he cannot process anything else from going on. And then I asked the wife, and the wife said, I think he needs Quran, because I think it's the evil eye that got him, because this was a very active guy. One client, my uncle, but his son believes in this way, his wife believes in this way. So how can we bring this together so that we make a whole holistic way to understand for every member and every family? So that's one thing that we need to address. Again, understanding the stigma associated with aging and dementia in cultural communities. In my culture, when you have dementia, it's kind of people they don't want to associate, because my dad, my dad succumbed to dementia at the age of 63. It'll be 1 year next Tuesday, 3 years next Tuesday. And when he started as a nurse and my brother is a pharmacist, we kind of noticed, but my dad was really ashamed to say that, he forgets something. And my mom was getting, because the neighbor will come and say, oh, I saw, Mzee Kainan wandering, and my mom will attack him and say, why are you wandering? You mean you lived here for 40 years and you don't remember? And he really felt really ashamed even to say that the person I was talking to, who is that person? So it kind of put him in a situation whereby he's kind of losing the value of his life. So we have those stigmas whereby because now that the person is aging, they are not active in the community, they're not doing anything, and now they're kind of not useful at any time, not seeing what the dementia is causing. So, and then our next one is our inventory existing and develop new tools and resources to address stigma in different cultural communities. So how can we address these stigmas in these different cultures so that it will be acceptable, and we can provide the caregivers, maybe the respite care, so everybody will be in the same page and we give the best out of it. And then identifying the best thing we came up with, maybe we can identify trusted community leaders or groups to disseminate, to pass the information. For example, I might go to the community and talk about dementia, and it goes like la 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 la, and they don't get it. But maybe if I go through the sheikh or the imam of Abu Bakr Sadiq, and we have that event, and we have trusted community leaders, and they talk about, yes, we have dementia, and this is what it is. We can help with this. So maybe we can pass the message. So that's what we have been working on. And then I have questions for you for the end. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I thought I finished my 5 minutes already. Yeah. So anyway, the Chai team is a multicultural. So we have different people, and it's really interesting when, you know, everybody's bringing the perspective of how I understand dementia. Well, I have Elma or Robin, how they understand dementia, because I have dealt with dementia myself with my family, but being open to the Western world and Western medicine, it was hard for me to communicate that message back to my mom and my aunt. So it was like this rift. And this was a point that really kind of opened an eye, and I can help the next family member or friend how I can bridge those gaps and address well. Thank you again. My name is Amina.
Next, we're going to have Sneha Latta,
Hi.
who's joining us online, right?
Yes. Hi. Hi, everybody. Thank you. I apologize. I am online because I'm traveling today, but I really thank Chai Group for giving me this opportunity, as I am a community professional who has passion to help older adults in our community to create a space which can be multi-generational and multicultural. And this is something which we feel, as we were hearing from Amina, that we want aging in place, and you know there are cultural issues. So how do we keep that intact but help older adults? And that's why I have been thinking and working on it since 2019 to create a program. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We already have brick and mortar in place. But what do we need is a togetherness, a program, a process where all of us are involved, and we create those small places to reduce isolation and help people with mental health. COVID has really shown us that people were very, very much isolated, and they felt worse, and mental health issues have increased. Researchers are showing. So what is important for us is we need to design programs within the programs. And today, what we are trying to bring forward to you is how can we get the support and create this program, make it pilot in different places, small programs, and it could be hybrid. And today we do have tech issues, but I am seeing that we can always leverage this hybrid programs and make it the best. In our team, when we were discussing the Multicultural Center initiative with the people who were in the team, it was very good to look at that how we can use the very few full-time staff, but leverage our volunteers from the community. And who would we, like Terry was saying earlier, they will be taking it up to the nursing school. So there is a synergy in bringing all those people together. The student or youth who is interested in public health or medicine sector, you know, they can get hands-on experience. We need to design in courses which Rizan is creating that we give them credits. If we work with older adults, maybe 5 hours or 4 hours a week, they get credit for it. They write a report later in one semester. So creating that space where they also create projects where older adults are involved, they give their wisdom. And the program which I am suggesting is a multi-generational. That means we have a study center there for daycare, basically from age 5 to 15, where the kids get the homework help, they play, they talk to older adults. What do older adults miss? They miss their grandkids. They miss being with people in the community. So this can be something which we can design to be in the community, and young youth kids or young adults could be someone who can facilitate this. Students from the university can then bring, who are in public health, bring programs and initiatives which can be good and innovative and helpful to people to reduce their isolation. For also, food is something which bring people together. So there could be hot lunch or snacks served, which could be very, these programs which I'm suggesting is not a lot of budget. It does not need a lot of budget. It just needs that mindset and initiative to bring it to people. And it can go a long way. We need to embed the volunteering, and I do have some initiatives thought that people who just retired, people from 65 to 70 to 75, they are healthy, they are young, they are still young adults, young older adults. They want to give back to the community. We could include them, and there we could save their volunteer hours in a bank. Like when I was in India, when we were donating blood, it was put in a blood bank. We were given a card that since you have donated blood this year, you can get this much pints of blood for your friends and family or yourself in the next 5 years. So we can create something like that as volunteer hours. So they give their hours today, and later on we provide them this space and hours for free, and they get supported. So something, I'm just bringing my ideas and some initiatives forward where we all can together learn from what is happening already, what is there, and what we can do better to design. And I am not a proponent of just free model because it is not very sustainable. Also, it's not respected much in the community. So it has to be a small fee-based, sliding fee scale, even the daycare where the kids will come and be there, parents can give some money. So it can be designed, or it can be free of charge for people who cannot afford, but a model which is sustainable. To create it that we can, and already we have many centers available. It's libraries, it's cafeterias in the schools, it could be churches and religious places where they have big space, which could be used with, collapsible walls and tables and chairs, which can be made up, and online, hybrid, because I'm talking about hybrid initiative, because we need to include people who cannot come. And this could have a programming which people can even enjoy in their homes, having chair yoga, having sessions. So a lot could be done. I know we have prepared some questions, and in the end, we want you to come forward, give your ideas, let us know what's already existing like this. Where can we learn more and then make this program in our Minnesota state better? And university, for me, since my PhD is on universities, I don't think any program can be successful without university support. That's why I'm part of CHAI. I really feel CHAI can do a lot. And this is a first foot forward. The first year has been great. And I really look forward to your support so that we can really make this multi-culture and multi-generational space programming a successful initiative. I have spoken.
Sonia.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Sonia Airo. I am an investigator with the Department of Labor. So I know right away, everybody's looking at me and saying, what do you have to bring to the table? Let me tell you what I have. I am a first generation migrant. Okay, I came here from Mexico, and my job is to protect the most vulnerable workers in the US. These vulnerable workers, most of them, great majority, are Latinos, and they are going to age in the US. So as I'm looking at around as to what is happening, and I'm looking at myself, all of 63 years old, I'm looking at what I can bring to the table, how I can advocate, how I can be a voice ahead of the curve, and how not only benefit them and myself, quite honestly, but my community. I have seen my parents age here in the US. I have seen the limitations and the opportunities. And as I'm looking at my role and what it is that I'm able to provide or bring a voice to, I'd like to share with you from my perspective, and also a little bit from a medical perspective. My daughter's a neuro-oncologist, so I'm a little bit exposed as to what healthcare provides and brings to the table as well. And as I'm looking at both of them, I see something very unique, especially for my community, but I'm sure it applies to other communities as well, is the ability to straddle not only the perspective of what healthcare means to you from your own personal background, but what healthcare is here in the US. So in our team members and I have looked at healthcare access, and we look at a two-part process. It's an educational toolkit that contains, on the one hand, what healthcare providers bring, and on the other hand, on the other side, what patient and families bring to make the healthcare successful. The number one thing that any successful partnership brings is communication. And that in and of itself, it's a challenge at times. Why is it a challenge? Well, not all of us have the ability to speak the language. Not all of us have the literacy to understand what we're looking at, and not all of us understand healthcare. So as I'm looking at what it is that we should be looking at for healthcare providers, to improve care communication and cultural responsiveness. When I spoke to my daughter about this, as a physician herself, she says, "Mom, do you know how many years I had to go to school just to do the care part, and you want me to do cultural again?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "And you do by definition, because you're my daughter, you understand the background I come to care with, and you're able to do that." And it is interesting that to some degree, everyone is exposed to culture here in this country. We're very fortunate that way. We have that diversity. But not all of us understand or are able to communicate. And that is the piece that is essential. So as we're looking at what healthcare providers can bring to the table, it's a little bit of fluency, a little bit of cultural understanding. It not only would be helpful to the patient, but I'm sure it would make the care a little bit more dynamic. So that is the first part that we have. For patients and families to prepare for appointments and self-advocate. This is really interesting to us. My brother, who's also a physician, I had the opportunity to see him in Los Angeles, and most of his patients are Latinos, and they call him a Diosito. If you don't know Spanish, that means little God. And there's a cultural component to that. For our culture, there are two main people in our community. There are priests and our doctors. So our doctors are looked at much more than healthcare. These are the people that we go to for guidance. These are the people that know our lives. These are the people whom we're going to listen to very closely. But we also need to be able to communicate with them as well. And we also need to be able to prepare what is it that we're going to do. We're going to be able to advocate, to ask the right questions, and understand that even though they do not reflect us physically, they do have the ability to understand us. So we prepare for that. We need to prepare our patients and families to be comfortable with the idea, because there's a little bit of fear when people don't look like us. We get a little bit more hesitant. So we need to prepare our communities as well, and to explain and inform and say their role as care providers is that of anyone else here, and they will be able to understand. So whatever it is that you bring to the table to them, do not be embarrassed, do not let your pride get the best of them. The quality care will come if you're able to communicate. So that's what our toolkit will bring. Okay. So our project has as next steps to identify the barriers for healthcare access. And that includes many things. As you all know, healthcare access is not uniform to everyone. I understand from my daughter that healthcare varies depending on economic background, undoubtedly. It depends on resources such as accessibility, whether you're close to your care. It depends on whether or not you have, again, the language or somebody to assist you. Or if you have, as my daughter says, ability to computer and do the WebMD so that you can come up with the questions. Not everybody has computers. People are going to come and ask health providers questions that may seem very basic or may seem too convoluted and misinformed. I apologize, English is not my first language. So the other next step that we have is to partnership with GWEP and develop content area for the provider education curriculum and integrate the 4 M's of age-friendly care. I'm excited about that. I think that education is something that we all do every day. Every day we learn something new, and we should be focusing on developing content that makes healthcare age-friendly. So that's where we are right now. We do have a couple of questions that I'd like to bring to the community. Okay, if this is a good time. And if not, I'm bringing them anyway. Yes. So, okay. So one of the questions that, one of the content areas that the toolkit we would like to see, or think about what you know from your background. And you tell us, are we reinventing the wheel or are there resources? Because people like myself, people who are forming this committee, they don't speak your language on a daily basis. And we know what we know from our perspective, but there may be some of you who have a lot of information and resources available. But one of the things is that I'm looking at the toolkit for the provider, I'm thinking education, and I find it so ironic. It's the University of Minnesota, education. We should be providing education as to what the differences of aging in the US is versus our own culture. They're very different at times. I heard from Amina what it meant for her father to be aging. And it's a little bit interesting from where I come from, when people are aging and their mental capabilities change. People say, you know, she's much more elevated, closer to God. That's why she can't relate to you right now, because mom or dad has reached a higher level than the rest of us. So it's important to understand as healthcare provider the differences and the nuances that comprise what aging is in one country versus here in the US. And even here in the US, it is changing daily. Aging is changing. I see it myself. I see what the definition, the stigma, the myths behind aging, and the opportunities. What is healthy aging? What does it mean to age healthy? Does it mean that you have a robust social life, resources, financial? Does it mean they're in great shape? What does it mean here in the US? And how does that apply to my cultural background? How do I conciliate both? On the one hand, one cultural background may tell me that I'm to step aside and to start moving my life and my activity level and toning it down. Or does it mean that I refocus it? Does it mean that I look at it differently? Are there opportunities to age that are different than what my background tells me? Those are the pieces that we think that the toolkit should provide. I don't know if there's any such thing available, but hopefully you'll guide us and let us know. And speaking of guidance, the next item that we think the toolkit should include is to tell us what resources are available. Again, we all age differently. We don't have the resources. Who can access these resources? Where are they and who has access to them? Does our healthcare provider have a liaison or a way to point us to that? Mentoring. I think mentoring is a great piece, a great tool in our toolkit. Sometimes our healthcare providers do not have all of the resources at hand or the time, but it would be great. I think I heard from someone talk about volunteers, members of the community who are connected with other organizations that can mentor along. I know for my aunts in Mexico, they had the neighbors. Somebody would know somebody who would know somebody that could do something for them. If you're in a different country than yourself, if the community is different than what you're used to, you do not know who your people are. Hopefully you have a community group, a church that you belong to, but what if you don't? So perhaps one of the tools that the providers can have is that mentoring liaison. Immediately, oh, I'd love this. Okay. Okay, on this mentoring, for helping patients prepare for the next appointment, does anybody know, or do any of you have the ability to speak to that? Is there such a thing? If I come to my healthcare provider and say, this is what the situation is, I'm going through this, it may be medically related, it may not, it might be borderline. Who do you go to? Is there anyone? Yeah. And from your research, from your study, what was the result from a patient standpoint? What did you guys see? What was the
Also an improvement in that, and there was also an improvement in patient-reported outcomes like satisfaction. And this isn't my study; it's just a systematic review I did, and this was one of the studies in that review. So this was specifically for Hispanic population, and they called it Promoteras. So that might be something you might be interested in.
Oh, I love it. Definitely. And I just think I agree that intuitively it makes sense to me as the Hispanic community that you would want a support system to help you to not only understand it, but to affirm the steps that you need to take and advocate for yourself. I believe that is an essential tool in the kit of healthcare providers. Sure.
First is Robert L. King, from Johns Hopkins University, and why it aligns with what you're talking about here is she actually has been developing tools and resources for families to bring in when they're meeting with a primary care provider around dementia. And she builds this work off of other work that's been done to basically empower patients and families to have like these challenging conversations with primary care providers. I don't know what the cultural implications of the work are, but that would be a starting point. In terms of existing resources in this space of geriatrics and culture, I think Stanford University has what they call it an ethnogeriatrics division, and they've developed awesome, I shared this with you, Robin. They've developed awesome resources on aging within specific cultural communities and tailored programs and supports for them. I would start by looking at that here in terms of building this out. Because there have been efforts around that have been doing this.
Thank you. I think that's my time, but thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We're going to go now to our project number 1. And for those of you who are online, if it's a little challenging to participate here, please, if you have a comment, do submit it in the chat for any one of those projects. And my email is here at the bottom. So please do email me after the meeting today, and I will provide the information to the teams. Good.
Okay, so time for questions. We don't want, like Sonia said, that we don't want to recreate the wheel again. So we don't want to duplicate resources or toolkits that already exist in there. I know the University of Minnesota, they did a lot of research, especially with the Somali community and the Latinos community. And so we don't want to do the same thing and duplicate a lot of to end up with wastage of resources. So the first question that I would like to ask is, do you have any idea, and this is not about healthcare access, it's stigma with dementia, just stigma. Do you know any toolkit existing out there related to stigma and dementia? So if you have that, then maybe you can share with us and we can see how you guys handled. My second question also that we would like to address today is, do you know any related research project that could be maybe benefit our work, or maybe could benefit from our work? So it's kind of vice versa. Any project that is able to benefit from us, or we can benefit from, maybe because dementia is not something just started yesterday or last month. It's something has been there, and there's a lot of research that has been done. So maybe one time you heard about it, or maybe you participated. So if you have any idea, maybe if you can boost us on that. Any answers on those questions that I asked?
I was going to say, I know in terms of research on stigma, one of the things that the Community Advisory Board will be able to do is to connect with Monka, that's on our team. She has had an excellent community partnership focus in on the African immigrant communities. And so they've done surveys and focus groups. And so that is an example of where we have had ongoing community relationships and work going on that can go to the CAB. And so that's, as you think about your role for those online and those in the room, we're posing these questions to you because our groups don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want you to funnel us information on research, information on best practices that have been disseminated. By sending that into us, it will inform the community advisory people. And so that's where we need your help. And so we're building out this information, and it'll be in folders for that team to access as they build their toolkits. So that is one example of where we have the work ongoing with stigma. Dr. Tatiana?
Thank you so much for your presentations. All of them have been excellent. On this one, two things come to mind. Your question number 3 on organizations to connect with. It seems natural that you may, and you probably already have considered this, the Alzheimer's Association. I know they have, done quite a lot of work on stigma around dementia. And then the other group that comes to mind, and I was just pulling up on my phone, I'll send all of this to Elma. I know CDC has sponsored some projects on toolkits related to addressing dementia stigma. In fact, it's been quite a few years ago. I know I applied for one of those, but I know they had like RFPs for it. And it was specifically focusing on adapting existing toolkits for different cultural communities. I don't know for which ones they've done it, but I do know that they've funded that kind of work. So I will share some of those resources. So one is the Centers for Disease Control, and the other one is the Alzheimer's Association. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to a question for, thank you for your presentation and really everyone. One of my ideas is a consideration for the use of kitchen table discussions as a way to have intergenerational dialogue about issues that we see in society, how they show up in our families, in our communities to get stigma. That's the first thing that I'm thinking about. And the second thing that I'm thinking about is really the use of PSAs and the use of communications campaigns against stigma. We don't do that well anymore. And I think that certainly if we look at cancer prevention research, thinking about multimodal communication strategies, I think those may be 2 areas to look at. You're thinking about how we have this conversation about stigma and begin to get information out to folks to have them think differently about aging and think differently about what dementia is.
The stigma of dementia, it's a great topic. You know, it's interesting, Tatiana, you brought up about the CDC and everything. That work actually hasn't advanced as much as you would think. You know, from our Bold Public Health Center of Excellence experience and some of my visits to different states, where I started to develop state plans around dementia, the topic of stigma comes up every time as we need to do more. I was just in Iowa 2 days ago. It was very at the top of the list. Everyone was saying we need to address stigma. Public health has addressed stigma in other areas like mental health awareness, you know, some other conditions, but in dementia, there's a lot of work to be done. And we're not even talking about the cultural piece. That in and of itself adds another layer of complexity. So it's a very important issue. This is really good.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I think we have, we're doing pretty good on time. I think we have about 4 or 5 minutes left, right, of our time here.
We have till 12:15.
Yeah.
So you have, awesome.
8 minutes.
Should we talk about that
So-
community center idea? I thought that was pretty intriguing.
Our project number 2.
I have some ideas about that.
Okay.
I don't want to talk
Are you
about
still
it.
with us
It's not-
online?
I'm not here by myself, so.
Thank you.
Great. So I am displaying here on the screen, I don't know if you can see it, Neha, the questions that you've identified with your team
Yes.
assembly today. And I think, yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, yeah, my question, I know that there,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Neha?
Yeah.
Just before you know, pitch out a couple of the questions to the group, one thing I want to say in terms of project number 2, the Multicultural Center, is that it is going to begin with the team, and they've already started this, with an environmental assessment. So we want to look for all of the cultural communities in terms of what kind of space exists in that community. So it might be a community center, it might be a library that's there, it could be faith facilities. So the group will assess what facilities are already in place in the different cultural communities, and they will, as a part of that assessment, as they identify that space, they will also identify what type of programming is going on related to aging, dementia, exercise, senior programming. So the group will have this environmental assessment, the way other groups are, to help inform and shape their work. So this isn't, I just want to make sure nobody thinks we're going to go out and build a building and have a capital campaign. So that's not where we start with this. Not to say that that's not something happening down the road, but I want you to understand that by first assessing what are the assets in the community today, facilities and programming, and then the team will build out from there. And that's where partnerships, when we identify cultural communities that don't have a place for their seniors together, where they can have that, break that isolation, that's where bringing them together will be able to do it. So all of these are multi-phases, and what you're hearing about is what the priorities are and the first project of each group, but there'll be many projects underneath each one. So Sneha, we only have about 4 minutes, but I want to turn this over to you and have you share a couple questions and get feedback.
Yes. Thank you, Robin. I really appreciate because you are in person there. I really look forward because it's the research community there and we all work in the space outside. So we know, I'm sure there are places and programs in place. So I really want to hear from all of you who is listening. Even if you are online, please write message or send to Elma. It will come to us. And if you are in person today, please share your examples, what you know has been existing for a space or a programming like this, so that we can tap into that and learn from them and then put our program in place, because it's a process. So mainly whatever you are aware of the community-based program. So I'll let the group talk and I would like to listen.
This is Marty DeLima. So I actually took part in a half-a-year project to help design a community center in Los Angeles. It was funded by the Wallace Annenberg Foundation. It's now called the Wallace Annenberg Gen Space. It's in this absolutely premier REM Cool House design building that's slanted, has cool windows. It has a tech lab. It has meals. It has dance classes. It has an art studio. And I know that's probably not within the funding, within the range that is possible. But we did a lot of research. We did focus groups with 7 different communities in LA to really understand what they were looking for. And we determined it's really best to identify a place where people are already going, rather than a new space. And we learned that, cultural competence is very important, especially the people who greet the individual when they're walking through the door should be familiar with them. Meal choice and what's offered is really important to older adults. And then we also looked for places that were accessible on major public transportation, like byways, because a lot of individuals would have to rely on friends or family members to get them there. And they're really accustomed to their traditional bus routes. So those are some of the things that we found that were the most important to older adults.
We look forward to learning about that. That's great. That's why we're so glad to have this opportunity to engage, because we know that these, vital pieces of work exist out there. And so we've shared Elma's email, and if you send information and programs to her, we'll follow up.
We have a couple of minutes, and others will share. I have some ideas. Go ahead.
I'll keep this quick. My name's Faizeen. I've been involved in a program that I implemented in my hometown of St. Thomas. I'm currently working on bringing it here, and it actually deals with the issue of isolation and loneliness among older adults and younger adults. So we actually hold intergenerational programs, and as you said, it's a lot harder to reach a lot of these community-dwelling older adults because there aren't oftentimes a lot of places where they congregate. So that's why we were talking about a place where a lot of people come together. So I'd be happy to discuss more about how there might be some sort of partnership there.
This is great. Other thoughts before I add something? So I think engaging Servant Party. Is it Faizan?
Faizeen.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you for being here. And I can share with you another example. So as part of my chair, I've been visiting every county to give dementia education in Minnesota. And last week I was in Redwood County, which Redwood Falls. And so it's around an hour? It's more like 2 hours southeast of the cities. And so I give a morning and afternoon presentation. The morning presentation was in Redwood Falls. But then the second presentation actually was at the Lower Sioux Nation in Morton, Minnesota. It's basically on tribal land. And it was really interesting. Rajan, I should have known this and I didn't. They actually use Live Well at Home dollars to build a new wing to their existing community center that's all aging. And it's for that community. In terms of, they have a kitchen, a community center, like an intergenerational kind of area for childcare. I was really impressed. I don't know how far those dollars would go up in the cities, but and it was all, it was purely culturally tailored according to this model. And I can connect you with the person who runs that. She actually, I think, a big emphasis was on the food, and serving indigenous food there. And she was telling me they just opened up a new supermarket across the road that serves solely indigenous food, which was, very challenging for many people in that community to find. I was really impressed. And the fact that they build that whole wing with Live Well at Home dollars. It's something to think about. In terms of space, we can always look into Yurok too. I don't know if they're set up to do this kind of thing, but if they are, it makes a lot of sense. But just some initial ideas. This was great. This is really wonderful. I hope we can continue this model. One thing I do want to emphasize from Chai's perspective is we're going to continue returning to these priorities. We're going to be tracking this work, how it evolves. Certainly, we're going to be doing that internally in our leadership group. I hope many of you are going to be getting involved. I mean, certainly, if we send out all these questions, I can provide answers to what I know on many of these. I'm sure many of you can too. And again, this is really, to me, a core emphasis of our center, and it is the vehicle for, I keep using the word outward facing. This is what it is. This is making it manifest now. Yeah, please, Tatiana, Dr. Shippey, yes.
Robin, if you agree that we could send this after the assembly, if each of the groups gives us maybe the title and the questions, that's right. Like, I think many of us would take the time to write it out.
Yes.
And then you can get a lot richer response.
That's what I was thinking. That's a great idea.
Yes, Tatiana,
Very
that's what we want to
exciting.
do. We're very excited because
Yes.
we know we just have such a wealth and people have their experiences here. But then I think about Marty that has the
And people who are not here today.
California.
See, I wouldn't have known, I wouldn't have known that. That's pretty amazing.
Yes, you guys have
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yes, we will share these questions out and welcome and embrace your feedback. And this is just gonna help our community members advance their projects so much more and make sure that the toolkits that we develop are the best that we can bring here.
And I know some members who joined us online already expressed interest
Oh,
and shared
great.
some research
Yes.
resources. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for those of
So
you
we'll follow
online.
up on that.
Again, those of you online, I'm going to shame you a bit. I mean, we all know that it's great to have you online and you can engage, but there's something to be said about having these conversations in person where possible. So hopefully you can join us here and at least have some of the food, right? So,
Delicious.
it's very good, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Kelly, my elder else who coordinated this, really appreciate it. So, well, let's move on to anything else here with the community. I mean, it's great work. Thank you so much, Robin and Alma. Let's move on then to our award reception, and of course, we start the cream of the crop, Dr. Fashal Walters. So, Shekinah, we are so thrilled that she's with us here at the University of Minnesota. She comes from us earning her PhD at Brown University. Again, an excellent institution. She is already carving out a very important space in health equity and long-term services and supports as a research area of interest. She's won many awards already. She had won, she was an R36 dissertation award winner, it's a key grant to obtain when one is a doctoral student. She's been recognized by the Academy Health for her dissertation work as well. Her work has already been featured in the New York Times and other very key national media outlets. And we're really proud to recognize Shekinah for the 2022-2023 Fester-Lampert Chair in Aging Studies. So Shekinah, please come on up. Even have this here. Look at this. Wow, really fancy. Go ahead, Shekinah. Maybe tell about your project.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this. I was really excited to be able to receive this award and these monies to support this work. We've been getting this work up and moving. It's been a really great experience as a junior faculty member because it has challenged me to learn new processes that I have yet to learn that happen within the university, like doing IRBs and that sort of thing. So thank you to Chai and to Joe's team for really being supportive throughout that process. This particular work is really focused on understanding both high quality and high Black home health agencies. As we know from different parts of healthcare, those, whether it's providers or hospitals or nursing homes, those institutions or organizations that serve a high proportion of Black or other minoritized populations typically are seen as lower quality providers. Those are the places you don't want to go. I would say even within our own communities, we know I don't want to go to that hospital if I get sick. I've heard stories of people going 6 hospitals, 6 counties away because they have this understanding intuitively. But what I can see in the data is that there are some home health agencies, and I'm sure the same is true for hospitals and other providers, that are both high Black and also have a high quality of care. And so this work is sort of training ground for me in qualitative research, since I'm trained as a quantitative researcher, but I'm really starting to have discussions with home health agencies about how do you do what you do, so that we can learn how to translate some of those findings to other providers so that they can also provide care. I think the last thing I'll say is the health inequities that exist across our long-term services and supports and post-acute care, I do not believe are the responsibility of minoritized populations to fix. I think these are system and structural problems that are the responsibility of our organizations. And so throughout my work, I look forward to being able to connect with organizations to better equip them to provide high quality care to everyone. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fashaw-Walters. Next, we also wanted to recognize last year's Fessler Lampert Chair Award winners in aging studies. I don't think we had a chance to do this. I don't know, are Carrie and Will, are they both on? Okay, great. Really thrilled. Carrie Henning-Smith, Associate Professor here in the Division of Health Policy and Management at the University of Minnesota, also is Deputy Director of the Rural Health Research Center here also at the university. She was an award winner last year, really proposed very interesting study on supporting social well-being of older adults in rural areas, focus on community context and social infrastructure. I don't know, Carrie, if you want to say a few words, if you have a chance.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sorry I can't be there with you in person, but I, like Dr. Fashaw-Walters, just want to say that I'm really humbled and honored by this award. With the Fessler Lampert funding, I was able to do a few things. I conducted an environmental scan of all rural counties in Minnesota to see the social infrastructure that's available and the ways that it is or isn't publicly advertised. I also was able to collect survey data of older adults at county fairs this past summer to understand their use of social infrastructure. And then I've been conducting secondary data analyses of county level data to see the availability of social infrastructure and how that corresponds with social isolation and loneliness among older adults.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Really appreciate it. Again, very well-deserving Fessler Lampert Chair of 2021-2022. I realize Dr. Manti is not with us. Just want to make a quick note on his project. He's actually currently the clinical director of the Grossman Memory Care Clinic here. And one of his project that he proposed really innovative. It was basically, he was recruiting a cohort of indigenous older people to collect a lot of important biological and other information from them to really build the first of its kind indigenous cohort focused on the study of dementia. Desperately needed in dementia. I mean, the lack of representation of indigenous older people in drug trials, other types of research with dementia is a major, major gap. And Will is trying to fill this. And again, very, very worthy award winner and topic for the Fessler Lampert Chair. So thanks, Carrie and Will, for all your great work. And again, congratulations. We also have with us today Dr. Quentin Cotton. Dr. Cotton is our Robert L. Kane postdoctoral fellow. I'm intermixing CHAI Awards and Robert L. Kane Awards because in many ways they parallel each other. They feed off of each other. There's a lot of synergy. We use some of the same processes for one award for the other. So I really see all these very worthy individuals as part of the same effort to support this work and serve as a catalyst in aging. And we have Dr. Cotton with us. Dr. Cotton comes to us from the University of Wisconsin. He worked with some incredible people out there. Andrea Gilmore-Bykowski, Barb Bowers, who's a real major researcher in qualitative work in aging. And we were just thrilled that Dr. Cotton chose us to continue his postdoctoral work. And I don't know, Quentin, if you want to come up and talk a little bit about what you were doing and what you hope to do with the fellow, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks, Quentin.
Great, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here in Minnesota. I was a Badger, now I'm a Gopher, so that's amazing. I'm really excited about this opportunity. I'm very interested in mixed methods research, implementation science, and intervention research, and to be here at a place where everyone is so passionate about equity really resonates with me. And equity is really all about social justice. And as a social worker, I'm really interested in person and environment. And social justice really calls on us to think about how we design environments to work for people. Some of the projects that I'll be working on here are rather interesting. I'll just tell you about two very briefly. I'm working with a community-based partner here who's interested in developing an intergenerational respite program, dementia-focused, for seniors. So it's a wonderful opportunity for me to put my CVPR skills in place, work with the team, and gain some leadership skills and get some pubs out of this in addition to doing good work. I'm also working on a program that's an evaluation of adult day service supports. Really right now looking at some qualitative data in terms of how interventionists and persons who go through training and benefit from the program really perceive their experience going through the program. And lastly, I'm working on a project that is taking a look at lucid events among persons with dementia. There have been a number of publications which have really developed some typology for these lucid events, and I have access to that data to just do some additional analysis. So again, really happy to be here working on cool projects and excited to be a part of CHAI. Thanks.
Thank you so very much. Another award that we give out yearly is the Robert L. Kane Long-Term Care and Aging Internship. Very exciting program in that we match students with community partners, many of whom are CHAI community partners, to really work on projects of mutual benefit. And I believe we have at least one intern here, which is Emily. Right, Emily, how are you? Thanks for being here. Emily's an MPH candidate. And Emily, you're working with, is it MGS or? So Emily's working with the Goodman Group and tell us a little bit about your project, Emily.
So I am at St. Anthony helping with their social work department, helping edit and make changes and improve their social work orientation manual, and also be looking at their quality improvement project and antipsychotic drugs.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emily, for being here. This is a great example of a program that gets a lot of bang for its buck. I know partners love being part of this, and the projects that are done often have lasting impact in these organizations. So again, thank you, Emily, and again, congratulations to our interns. You know, another award that CHAI does provide each year with the wonderful support of the Goodman Group is the Goodman Group CHAI Scholarship winner. This year it was Hannah Garrett, who's a doctorate of physical therapy candidate, and she is working with Goodman Group to implement what she calls Jerryland, which is a fall risk education board game. Very cool project. That was a big emphasis that Goodman Group wanted to focus on as part of the scholarship this year, was how to reduce falls in their residential settings. Then, you know, these are going to be new award winners probably within a week, but we did want to recognize the 4 recipients from last year of the Shelley Joseph Cordell Memorial Scholarship. You see Jeanette Romero Sands, Madeline Howard, Michelle Burning, and Heather Ferguson. Again, and we hope and are excited to award a new cohort of individuals, again, with the very kind support of the Cordell family in the next couple of weeks, and we hope to continue doing this annually. And then finally, Rajan, I don't know if you know we added this in the slides. We wanted to congratulate you. Yes. Yes. Rajan received very exciting news from Next Avenue as an influencer in aging. So congratulations, Rajan. So proud to have you as a leader in CHAI, and a very well-deserved award. So we're going to conclude. Again, all of you online, elsewhere, do stay connected to us. As you can see, there are so many opportunities to engage with our center in different ways. We'd love to hear from you. We do have a Twitter account at UMN CHAI, which is very active. Again, if you have content, if you want to promote a recent publication or presentation or something that you've done, let us know and we'll put it out there. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great end of the year. I hope the semester is ending well for you. Again, we're here to help and here to engage with you. And thank you for making CHAI such a success, everyone. Thanks so much. And I think that's it. So.